Welcome to the breakdown of the, I guess we'll call it a debate. We'll be looking at the logic and statements made, the claims made, and logic used to really highlight exactly what went on during this conversation. There we go. And see why there was a breakdown and at least from my point of view, a clear inability to understand basic concepts. But we'll really go through it, and anybody can feel free to try and call me out if I seem biased in any way. Obviously, I'm in the conversation, so it'd be easy to claim that I'm being biased here. But I really, really want to focus on the logic used, the claims made, and tackle them in of themselves. So let's begin.
Okay, so how do I pronounce your name? Is it Zales?
Just say Zale.
Okay, Zale. Alright. So, Zale, why do you believe that my Naruto versus Ichigo video on who did I win? Are you saying that I win both characters or just Naruto?
I would say both, but for me, it's not necessarily that. To make it very, very clear, this would be the easiest way to sum it up, is I take things in the way I started off is, do you want to be as accurate and consistent as possible? So I think if you follow that logic, if you follow that, like, yes, I want to be as accurate and consistent as possible, we take like necessary truth values and we follow that, then you're not going to get to where you are. And I think where you end up is going to be on the high end by a long shot.
Okay. Why is that the case? So why don't you believe that where I scaled both Naruto and Ichigo are appropriate for the same video?
Because I think that the evidence that is compelling to you is extremely underwhelming to me, in which case, so I'm unconvinced. Another just quick tidbit in where I'm coming at this from is take, say, a agnostic atheist. So you might have the Christian say...
No, I know what an agnostic atheist is.
Cool. So I'm just not convinced. So...
Okay.
I'm not saying that you are outright wrong, but I think that if we go for necessary minimums, meaning the minimum strength that a person must possess and not like anything above that, I think you are so far above I would say you're even above average, but that's where I'm coming at it from, so we could go into all that, but that's where I'm coming from. All right, pause. We just started, but let's break down what we have so far. Now, this all started, he made a video claiming Naruto is universal, and Ichigo was some other level. We didn't get to that. This is known as a positive claim, a claim that requires proof, thus the debate or conversation. My current statement to him, my current position, is that if we want to be as accurate and consistent as possible, and we want necessary truth values, being as that follows being as accurate as possible, then claiming Naruto is universal would go against that. Necessary truth values, by the way, are true things that must be true and can't be false. When he asked why I don't believe Naruto and Ichigo scale to where he does, my position is made more clear that 1, I'm not saying he is wrong, and 2, if we are using necessary minimums, since I know he'll want to claim he too is trying to be as accurate and consistent as possible, though we haven't got there yet, but everybody wants to be or claims they want to be as accurate and consistent as possible, that his positive claim of universal Naruto isn't necessary or minimum. It is not using something that must be true and can't be false to get there.
Okay, so the first thing I'd say is that since I've already provided evidence in the form of the 20-minute video that I didn't produce, I would like a contention. The second thing I'll say is, I would say that there really is no minimum power level to a set character. Again, I feel like power scaling in general is subjective, which is the reason why tiering systems do exist, all these quote-unquote weights, this, and the third. So I'm not going to completely disregard what you have to say in terms of, oh, well, I highball this character, or there's a set minimal power level for this character. I'll instead hear you out with what you have to say, but I would like a better contention on why these characters are not what they are, in a sense of, oh, well, the series provides this as a debunk to what you're saying type of story. In Naruto, this indicates that what you're saying, this is contrary to what you're saying in the video type of story. Some concrete form of distinction or disagreement for what I said, such as a contention or actual refutation. So, do you
Yeah.
have like, any actual refutations for both Ichigo and Naruto?
Here we have our next pause. So now we have some info on what he wants and claims. One, he says he provided evidence in his video. Sure. Here's the breakdown of that. Evidence in of itself isn't proof, nor does what he show prove or again provide a necessary minimum for his positive truth claim of universal Naruto. It's not burden of evidence, it's burden of proof. To be clear, evidence is fine, but it ultimately has to lead to something more provable and not merely at the level of pseudoscience or a conspiracy theorist. Pseudoscience and crazy conspiracies have evidence. But that's why I asked, do you want to be as accurate and consistent as possible? In fact, let me just play here to cut ahead so you think that I'm like taking him out of context here. He claims he wants to be as accurate and consistent as possible.
Okay. Obviously, the reason why I made the video in the first place was to be as accurate and consistent as possible.
Everyone says it. So this is why this applies so thoroughly. 2, claims there is no minimum level for characters. To be clear, I make the positive claim that there is minimum for characters. For sure, I hold that as true. An example I would give, however, would be a character picking up a rock. I'd argue we would verbatim have proof they at minimum have the strength required to pick up a rock. I don't know their maximum, but at minimum, can pick up a rock would hold true. If he wants to claim there isn't minimums, I'd want proof, though that's a very silly claim. 3, power scaling is subjective. I agree. And this is why I ask if you want to be as accurate and consistent as possible. Because if we agree we both want this, then we can point to logic that applies and objectively makes proclamations from there, not just subjective ones. In chess, any move subjectively can be as good as any other. Sacking your queen for no gain whatsoever can subjectively be just as good as taking a queen for no loss. But if both players agree that the goal is to take the king in checkmate bound to the rules laid out in chess, now sacking your queen in this way is objectively not better than other moves. Other moves are objectively better than that. This logic holds true for the betterment of the planet or many other things, or even here in this debate in being as accurate and consistent as possible. Simply hiding behind subjectivity here won't cut it. The only way in hiding behind subjectivity here is to also say that you don't care to be as accurate and consistent as possible. If that is not your goal, then that's fine. If that is not your goal, then they can be whatever level, and subjectivity all the way. Finally, 4, he wants me to make contentions that also require proof. I don't know what to say here. Tough. That's too bad. I had already laid out my position and my contentions. My position doesn't require proof. You cannot prove negatives. Naruto is universal, requires proof. Yeah, my contentions is the basis by which you judge the truth values in which you claim their levels of power. So it's mostly the evidence used. So with that, you will, a lot of it is very statement-based with no feats backing. That, for example, is quite weak to say that they are therefore the levels that you claimed. That one is a huge one. You use that to back a lot. Now, a second one, and unless you want to hit that up, unless you want to go right in order, otherwise I can go through them pretty quick. Okay, the second one.
Right in order, if you would like.
The what?
I can go right in order if you would like, because I'm leaving soon regardless, so I'll just go right in order.
Okay. Yep. Not a problem.
Okay. So the first thing about the statements, I'll just say that statements are held as true unless contradicted. Every single statement that we would literally say within English linguistic or any linguistic value at all would automatically have a set truth value unless contradicted. For example, if I say that if I say that Captain can run faster than Tempest, there's no reason for you to deny that Captain can run faster than Tempest because there's no contention in or a contrary form of evidence given to basically contradict the said statement. Which is the reasons why we will hold statements to their initial value unless contradicted. So me stating that Naruto has or Kurama has enough power to turn the world to ash via a statement that has not been contradicted at all doesn't necessarily debunk what I'm saying within the video. I think that's merely being a skeptic, and which I do understand because a lot of statements, such as even me within Bleach, for example, the Garganta, which is stated to be infinite, rather, yes, the statement itself is stated to be infinite. I give it the interpretation such as, well, the statement can say infinite, however, the definition of infinite within the set context could be vast or very large or very great and not truly infinite, which is the reason why I didn't scale Ichigo within the video to universal like I did to Naruto. I don't know what statement obviously you're presupposing that it's wrong in the sense of, well, you're using statements to back up most of the stuff you say, but I'm going to assume that that you're talking about most of the statement stuff, and I'm going to also assume that via what you said, you believe that statements hold they hold more validity and more weight than, feats hold more validity and more weight than statements. Do you believe that?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, so that's where I'm like, well, if you could provide me anything within the actual source material, that being the manga, anime continuity, or the canon light novels, to kind of contradict the statements that are within the main source material, that being the manga, then I mean, sure. However, the statements would not be contradicted, nor will be wrong unless there's a contradiction shown.
Sure.
So why in the end portion of the video, I was like, well, that's why I dropped most of my tags on all of my videos in the first place. And seeing how there isn't nearly even at least 1K people in the server out of the 10,000 people who watched that video is telling. So I want to firstly say I appreciate you for coming here and talking to me personally. However, yeah, I would like if there's any real feats that debunks what I was saying within the video, then I would love to hear.
Okay, so there's a lot there. So out the gate, there are not going to be feats that debunk because there's the level of not contradicted is a very low bar, and I disagree. And this is actually going to get to the crux of the issue and statements here, because if stated and not contradicted, therefore true, is terrible basis by which to judge truth values. So I can get into that, but to first establish like feats and how you're talking about, like, could I possibly give a feat that contradicts? Just about never, no. If you have a character, if it's a boxing anime and it's like they just show to be basic human level throughout the whole thing, and it's like this man is punching with the force of a star. I mean, who's to say? I don't know. Maybe their whole planet is actually the size of a multiverse, and like their fists are the size of galaxies. Who's to say? And here's pause number 3. Let's look at the current claims by both sides. For him, we have 1, statements are true unless contradicted. 2, there's no reason to deny a statement as true if not contradicted. 3, we hold statements to their initial value unless contradicted. 4, I, the one debating him, as in Zalia's, am presupposing a statement as is wrong. And lastly, 5, I need to point to a feat or proof that proves he is wrong. For myself, nothing has changed, and we'll get into why. So we have 1, if stated and not contradicted, doesn't necessitate truth. 2, if we want to be as accurate and consistent as possible, triple AP scaling, then we should use necessary truth values and not could be scaling. 3, he isn't using necessary truth values. And lastly, 4, he, like anyone else, scaling a series in any given way could be right. So this is what's going on at this point, and, well, let's break it down. Starting with him, statements are true unless contradicted. He hasn't proven this to be the case yet, and he doesn't, but go through it yourself if you don't believe me. He's only asserted it to be the case. There's no reason to deny a statement as true if not contradicted. Given things like lies, half-truths, misinformation, hyperbole, and more, all exist within what is language, this is simply false. Those are reasons why you might deny that it is true, if not contradicted. He never demonstrates his claim nor refutes these examples either throughout the whole thing. Next, we hold statements to their initial value unless contradicted. This is a little confusing. Statements don't have an initial truth value. I don't know if he doesn't understand this, but statements aren't in a default of true and then have to be turned into false. The default, if anything, is we don't know, not true or false. Okay, so next, I, the one debating him, am presupposing a statement as is wrong. This is simply him failing to understand my position. It's exactly the opposite. I agree. Any statement, if not contradicted, could be true. I need to point to a feat or proof that proves he is wrong. This is his last one. Why would I need to do this? The answer is I don't, as this is what is known as shifting the burden of proof. He made the positive claim that Naruto is universal. He needs the proof to back his claim. I don't need to actually have proof to say I'm not convinced. As I've clearly stated, he could be right. The thing he doesn't like is that whenever I bring up being as accurate and consistent as possible, where when agreed upon as a goal, we can make objective proclamations, that then his proof being non-existent flies directly in his face when I bring up that he isn't trying to be accurate at all. That's what he's not liking here. That what I'm just saying there, I can back all that. So let's move on to my claims. If stated and not contradicted, doesn't necessitate truth. Prove it. Okay, sure. Consider this statement. There is an undetectable dragon in my room with me right now. There's no contradiction here. We've never seen one before? That's not a contradiction. I could be lying? That's not a contradiction. What could you possibly use to contradict me? The answer is you can't contradict me. So, is it then true? Does everyone believe in my undetectable dragon in my room right now? Consider instead the statement, there is a dog in my room with me right now. Well, this would be far more believable, right? It still could be wrong, but why is this more believable? The answer is that we have references for the possible truth value of the claim. We know dogs actually exist. We know dogs fit in rooms. We know dogs are pets. Yeah, I could have a dog in my room. A dragon, though, what proof do we have for that? The answer is as much proof as we have for Kaguya's ETSB, Ninetales turning the world to ash, or all the other statements I'd be against. No proof. None. That's how much we have. My other claim, if we want to be as accurate and consistent as possible, then we should use necessary truth values and not could be scaling. This is also like 3 is greater than 2. Simply true. Necessary truth values must be true and can't be false. Definitively so, like that's what they are. Using them over could be truths can only result in more, not less, accuracy and consistency. I claim he isn't using necessary truth values. The proof for that is within the debate itself, as each and every claim he ever makes throughout the whole thing is the proof of him not using any necessary truth values, which is only a problem because he claimed he also aimed to be as accurate and consistent as possible. Without that bit, he'd be fine. And lastly, again, my last claim is he could be right. Well, am I right that he could be right? Given hypothetically any scaling could be right, and yeah, I'm right here as well. Let's continue.
I think that's a non-sequitur and a false equivalence in of itself. If, especially in the criteria in which you're putting your set analogy, that being a boxing anime, we will take we will just presuppose that all these characters are in fact human level. That's what, let's say boxings are. So if I have a manga that says, well, he's punching with the force of a star, you can take the context clues and implications within the said context that it's obviously hyperbole. Which is the reason why I'm saying that this analogy doesn't work in the sense of both Naruto and or Bleach, seeing how we have characters that are on these planetary to maybe universal ranges of power. Again, I'm saying maybe here because obviously we disagree upon the consensus of, if they are. So if we have these characters that are producing these multi-continental, these planetary, star-away, etc.,
Okay, whoa. All right,
hold on.
look, you're gish galloping though. You're going hard. Like you actually, when you rambled like quite a bit before, which is fine. I'm trying to get to it all, but like I gave maybe 5 sentences, and you're going hard. All right, I need to mostly fast, really. But look, I get what you're saying. So the idea here, though, the overarching idea, and it's good. So you understand the idea of presupposing things based on real life. That'll come up later. So that'll come up. This is something I wanted to bring up for other things later. But fine. All right. The idea is that if you're going to say that Naruto is universal because there's a statement, it's never been backed. There's nothing actually. There's no feats that suggest it. But then you're going to point to feats that at their best, let's just say planetary, and I don't even agree with that in terms of AP, maybe total joules, which is a whole other thing I think you may miss, is the difference between DC, total joules, and AP. But aside from that, planetary is so far removed from universal that to say therefore, because of this statement, they are therefore, because not contradicted, therefore is true. So you're like the Christian here, you're saying is true, not may be true. And I'm saying that is so unconvincing, that is so weak, that is not real. Comparative evidence to everything you might bring to a case is so extremely minute. So that's one example. That was just the feat side. Now the idea of in a whole of if stated, therefore true. What you want to do, this is assuming on your end, you want to be as accurate and consistent as possible. Everybody claims they do. I don't believe it though. Is that you want to use lowballs. An example I will give here is, say, a candy jar. And then you can go to the next part, unless you want to... Anyways. Take a candy jar. It's filled with, let's say, 500 pieces. All right? And people are going to guess how many are in it. If you got person 1, he's like, there's 600. Person 2, there's 400. And person 3 says, there's at least 300. Only person 3, despite person 2 being closer, is the one making a correct statement. And so if you're going to make claims like they are these levels, I have Naruto at universal, this is where your level of evidence is completely on such a low level if it's purely going to be if stated and not contradicted, even though the shown feats and everything else, all the other evidence is so far removed from it, therefore true. So that's just the statements part. And let alone things like hyperbole and everything else existing within the language and lexicon and such. Jeez.
Anyways, can I go on what is it called? To refute now?
Yeah.
Okay. So the first thing I would like to say is that you already mentioned prior that you can't give any feats that contradict any of my statements. You also didn't refute the fact that I said statements are true unless really contradicted. All you said is that in a way to sort of measure truth values, it's a really bad way to do it. You never really gave a contention to that, so I'm just going to take that as not necessarily a concession, but as a burden of rejoinder, in the sense that you didn't attack my argument, at my base argument at all. The second thing I'll really say that I was going without leaning into before I let you talk is again, if, like I mentioned before, hyperboles. However, if I have these, and this is why I told everyone to listen, if I have these characters that are completely shown to have these planetary, multi-continental, star-level feats, then if I were to say that, well, these characters could possibly be universal, it's not too outlandish for me to say that. I said this multiple times within the video, even within speed. I was like, well, within the feats and statements shown, it isn't too outlandish to assume and or assert these characters could be scaled as high. Most of the things within the video I left to you guys' interpretation. I gave multiple lines of scaling, that being planetary, star level, solar system, and the universal scaling. The only person I didn't give universal scaling is Ichigo, because I quite literally, as almost anybody in the server will know, that I'm quite literally famous where I do not agree with universal bleach. Almost never will, ever. So again, yeah, I understand where you're coming from. Why you say, well, statements they're not necessarily good in measuring truth value. However, that doesn't debunk the truth value of the said statement. You verbatim stated yourself. Within the source material, you cannot give realistically any feat contradicting the stuff that I said within the video. Nor can you really give a statement contradicting anything that I said within the video, because all the statements I use are from the manga that you would kind of use to debunk the stuff that I'm saying within the video. Another thing that I want to mention that you mentioned is the whole AP and DC stuff. When we have AP and DC, let's say I have a DC feat of me to join the mountain, but I have no AP feats, then one will rightfully assume that my AP would be the same as my DC because I do not have any DC feats that put my AP. Sorry, I do not have any AP feats that put my AP above the likes of my DC or vice versa. So I understand the difference between AP and DC. There's no need to explain that. But as for the whole statement thing, which is the reason why before you kept talking, I was like, okay, here's my Discord. Talk to me. It's not really. There's no assumption that I was making. There's really none. You said yourself, which the problem that I have with most people is that when I ask you guys for feats to debunk what I'm saying, you guys can't give it. When I ask for statements, there's none. There's only this pseudo semi preponderance of evidence to try to debunk what I'm saying, in which you guys can't. It's all merely, well, I don't agree with this and I don't agree with this. But then when I ask for an actual contention, you guys just don't and say, well, I just agree with this. But then I ask why, and like your answer was here, well, I believe that, well, statements are a really bad way to measure truth value. That doesn't debunk the overarching statement of what I said prior, which is the reason why I started this entire discussion by saying statements are true unless contradicted, and I gave a definition and an example for that. If I were to say that Captain runs faster than Tempest, there's no reason to believe that Captain does not run faster than Tempest because there's nothing contradicting this statement that Captain runs faster than Tempest. There's nothing at all. You may be inclined to disbelieve that, but it'd be disbelief on an arbitrary basis, which even the logic you're presupposing debunks my argument doesn't even hold because logic itself doesn't even allow something to be arbitrary. Logic itself, it must be concrete within itself because logic is stemmed from the initial truth value of just truth itself. For something to be logical and logically deductive, it must be true. So again, if you cannot give me a feat to debunk the statement that I've made within the video along with the feats that I've made within the video, because for Ichigo, I gave feats more than even statements to bring him to Universal, and I'm assuming that the statement that you're talking about is a statement with Kage, where it says Kage's dimension is the space-time. Again, one would assume her dimension is a space-time because there's nothing contradicting the fact that her dimension is a space-time, etc., even with the bleach statements. That's what I want you guys to understand. And I want all 10,000 people who watched my Naruto vs. Ichigo video to understand that I'm not biased towards Naruto and or Bleach, nor am I trying to be incompetent or silence your voices when, let's say, I delete a comment or I delete that a third. But I want you guys to understand that if you guys are going to talk to me about the video that I made, I'm going to assume that the contentions and refutations that you guys are going to make are going to be the same quality as the video that I made, not in a literal sense, but in the sense of it has to be well educated, which is the reason why I don't believe that you saying that statements are just not a valid way to measure truth value is a rightful contention to the video, especially because you're not arguing the initial statement of what I said, which is statements are true unless contradicted.
Pause for, and what can I say? I keep showing the cause of the circular argument for a reason. Ultimately, basically nothing has changed to this point. He simply asserted a truth value for something he's provided a whopping 0 proof for being right, Universal Naruto. He continues to assert statements that aren't contradicted are true, and continuously shifts the burden of proof, while not grasping what my position still is after all this time. Him not knowing what AP is also telling, but again, for real, what can I say? These are the things that I wanted to point out in this video, that I wanted to highlight. This guy is the average scaler out there. It's scary how little critical thinking is used in his thought process, but the gap in logic is honestly insurmountable to the point where we unironically must be living in different realities. I cannot have a basic conversation with him. But again, he's what you'll find in the community on average. And I don't want to be seen as correct in all this because you're sub to me or you view me and not him or others maybe, I don't know, or whatever. Straight up, to give you an idea, his community actually thought he was making sense. that he wasn't showing a complete lack in ability to grasp some pretty basic logic. That's what communities can breed. And look, I love my community that's with me, but I want to always know I have people I can talk to and see what I'm saying is true because they're actually true, or in this case, if they can just see that the other guy is way over their head on this stuff. But yeah, it's been going in a circle. I get that. That's what this debate kind of devolved into. Hopefully you've seen and you could grasp with the concepts where if you agree with him, you are living in a fantasy land, because just logistically, the things he's actually saying cannot be the case. They make no sense. Aside from the doesn't know AP, shifting the burden of proof, and has not provided proof. Aside from that. All right. I feel like you're very much simplifying what I said, missing out some. But aside from that also, I don't know, man. Get it off your chest. I don't know. I'm not everybody. I don't know what everybody else put you through. I get it. I mean, I'm a content creator, not trying to shout myself out or anything. I'm just saying I get it. I've come across some of the most ridiculous people like coming at me with no logic actually put into it. Anyways, okay, so let me be more direct with this statement part then, and then we can move on to feats, because part of it was like you guys, you know, you don't come up with feats or anything, dude. We just started, like, okay. If it's stated not contradicted, it's true. That's just wrong. That's the big problem of what you're saying. If something is stated and it's not contradicted, that does not necessitate that it is true. So your whole premise, the problem with where you're going from that is that it's wrong. You have an incorrect premise. If something is stated and it is not contradicted, that doesn't mean it is therefore true. If Captain runs faster than Tempest, that doesn't necessitate that. If somebody tells me that doesn't necessitate that Captain indeed runs faster than Tempest. So no, if stated and not contradicted, therefore true, is completely wrong. That's the premise you've been using, and it is a false one. It is a false premise, and so this is why the whole basis of which I was talking about, that statements are weak in general, but I also elaborated, I'm not going to go into all of that again, is why it's a weak case. Because you can't actually just say, well, it's not contradicted, therefore it is true. Now, if you wanted to argue it is maybe true, I would agree with you. Now, one thing you said, maybe I missed it, is if you're saying you gave a scale for planetary, solar system, and universal. If you're just given multiple scales, and you're saying they could be, not they are, they could be all these different scales, I'm also cool with that, though it didn't seem like you were going with that. It seemed like you went with the highest end to be comparative for both, like to end the debate. That's what the video was about. So you stuck with universal Naruto. You didn't stick with planetary or solar systems. I don't know what you're talking about there, but if you're talking about like could be scales, I agree, they could be. But a lot of people could be a lot of things. So if you're talking about like they are these levels, that's where I have a problem. You can't just say it's not contradicted, therefore it's true. No statement works that way. They could be true. Yeah. Now, if you want to get into feats, I can definitely get on all that.
Okay. So, again, right? If I were, again, with the analogy I said, again, which is, again, what I said last time, you're inclined to disbelieve, which is like what I'm saying, which you are. But if I were to say that Captain running faster than Tempest, unless there's a showing prior or after the statement is made that debunks what I'm saying, then the statement is not false, is what I'm saying. The statement isn't false at all. There's nothing showing that it's false, which is the reason why I'm saying there's no contradiction to prove that it's false.
This is why I'm an agnostic atheist about it. I'm not saying it is false. Dude, it could be.
I'm not saying that.
You're saying it is. I'm saying it is. And I'm saying it's a could be, and your interpretation is on the high end that it is.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying, I've never said, right, that it is, I'm not saying that it is concretely true, or I'm not saying it is concretely false.
Wait, we're pausing here. So you're not making any positive claim that Naruto is a certain level. Okay, what if I play this clip though?
So is Naruto having universal plus levels of power via the Momoshiki and Kage scaling I did prior, alongside the two-dimensionality and the millions upon millions of times of it, and via Baron mode?
Let's play it one more time.
So is Naruto having universal plus levels of power via the Momoshiki and Kage scaling I did prior, alongside the two-dimensionality and the millions upon millions of times of it, and via Baron mode?
Yeah, no, I'm not saying, I've never said, right, that it is, I'm not saying that it is concretely true, or I'm not saying it is concretely false.
Yeah, so let's just move on.
My initial premise was simply that statements, right, are true unless contradicted. That already opens up to the possibility that it could be false. I think that it's presupposed that statements, if are true, right, or sorry, if not contradicted, are true, still opens up to the possibility that it can be contradiction, aka opening up to the possibility that it can be false.
But statements that aren't contradicted can also be false.
That's why I said it can be open up to the possibility of it can be false. I just said that.
I'm saying without being contradicted, it can be false.
Without being contradicted.
Yes, a bunch of every statement that isn't contradicted.
If it was, if it's then proven false, then there'll be contradiction. That's how it's proven false.
No. I'm not saying if it's later contradicted. I'm saying statements that are not contradicted can be false.
Why would statements that are not contradicted can't be false?
Because we're talking about basic language. We're talking about hyperbole, lies, psyching someone out. Like, there's so many different things in language. Death of the author would be a huge example of this if you're going to go into, like, author's intent and such. There's so many avenues.
So then there would be a contradiction showing how it's false.
No, I'm talking about all the examples where you could have statements.
Okay. Give me an instance. Give me a clear example of how this would be the case without a contradiction. Go ahead.
Of which thing without a contradiction?
Of a statement, right, that can be false without a contradiction. Show me an instance of that.
All right, perfect. Captain runs faster than Tempest. There's no contradiction. It could be false.
I never said that it could not be false, and I just said...
Bro, you said if it's not contradicted, it has to be true.
No, I said if it's not... I said statements that don't have a contradiction to them.
Just like what I read. Yeah, so you're saying Captain runs faster than Tempest. It's not contradicted, so it has to be true. I'm saying it doesn't have to be true.
I said if it does not have a contradiction.
Which it doesn't. So you'd say it is true.
Yeah, I would say it is true because it doesn't have a falsehood to it. That's why. There's no falsehood to it. Is there? You tell me. Is there a falsehood?
It could be.
No. Answer the question. Is there a falsehood? Yes or no?
As much as there is a truthhood, yeah.
You're not okay. See, now you're different. You're not answering. You're not answering the question. Is the statement that Captain runs faster than Tempest, right? And there is no contradiction presented, right? If we hold it as true, right? Why would it be false if there's no falsehood? It would only be false
because of lying, misjudgments. There's so many reasons.
It would only be false if given a contradiction, correct?
No, something can be false without a contradiction.
Okay, something can be false without a contradiction. Provide me that.
I just did.
No, you didn't, because the only way something can be false is if you provide a contradiction. If I don't provide
No, that's the only way something is provably false.
Which is what I'm saying.
No, you're just saying.
No, I'm not denying the possibility. You're trying to think.
You are.
Which I'm not, because I verbatim said that me saying that statements without contradictions are true. Always opens up to the possibilities that there could be a contradiction. I stated that verbatim multiple times.
I don't know how you're missing it.
The possibility.
I've already.
I never denied the possibility.
You're specifically in terms of contradictions being shown, but you're not showing how a statement that isn't contradicted necessitates it is true. You haven't shown that.
I never said that a statement that isn't contradicted necessitating to be true.
That is literally your point. That is literally your whole position.
I'm saying that without the contradiction presented, it could be held as true.
It could be, but it could be held as false.
Yeah, and I'm saying, right, within the context of what we're talking about, which is the Naruto versus Ichigo video, because there is no contradiction presented, what you said verbatim, that means you can't provide any feats contradicting what I'm saying.
Yeah, it could be universal. I agree. I agree they could be universal. But so what? Like so many things. If you're just going, if your whole thing is going to be could be.
Okay, you're saying that they could be universal.
Yep.
If I provided evidence that they are universal, provide me evidence that they're not. It's as simple as that. Just do it. That's what I've been asking for this whole time.
That is literally, bro, God exists. I'm not very convinced by that. Yo, then prove to me God doesn't exist. I'm not saying, like, I can't prove to you God doesn't exist. I can't prove to you that they aren't universal. But your examples are so trash.
No, you're missing the point.
I'm not.
I've already, the difference between a theistic debate and the debate we're having this one, which I find very sorry.
I'm just giving you straight logic.
Right? The difference between a theistic debate is because it's not like there's a video that already exists with all of my evidence within it that is already just there for you to make a contention upon. Within a theistic debate, I have to make an argument off the spot that you would then argue against on the spot.
We're just doing statements right now. We can go on. Can we go to feats?
No, hold on. The whole reason why the video exists and the whole reason why I told you to come here is so you can state your reputations and contentions to the said video. The video already exists. That's why I'm saying prove the video wrong. Give me a contention on the video. Yet you're saying, well, prove to me God doesn't exist.
This is why I start. Oh, this is why I started with. Do you think I came out of nowheres with the here's where I'm coming from? Like, you think this is my first time having somebody go this route? If you don't want to have a talk or debate about the philosophical side of this, and you don't want to talk about somebody who isn't convinced, and here's the reasons they're not convinced, and it's only going to be debate tactics, bro, I gotta win, and so anything goes as long as I win this debate type of thing, and not some real talk, and you're just wanting to be like, you have to prove me wrong. That's not where I was coming at it from. I started with, here's where I'm coming from. I've already explained, and I've really highlighted. I don't know where you're trying to do with the atheist thing there, where you're trying to separate it, but the logic that is being applied right now is the same, exact same. The logic in this example is the exact same, and it really highlights where you're missing. I'm fine to go with feats, but
the reason why I'm saying that you have to prove me wrong in this instance is because I've already understood what you're talking about. You said this is where I'm coming from. I do not believe that statements are a proper way to determine truth value, etc., and I've responded to all of it. Now, in the case of now that you're talking about within my video, yes, you would have to prove how my video is wrong. I understand that you don't believe what I'm saying within the video and that you're still open to the possibility, but I've already given evidence. It's not like I haven't given evidence on what I'm saying. I've already given evidence. The fact that you still disagree means that you disagree with the evidence presented within the video, meaning the evidence is wrong, which is the reason why I'm asking you now then prove the evidence within the video is wrong.
All right, let me help you. All right. I don't think you are wrong. I think that, as I stated from the beginning, if you care, in fact, I'll just ask you, do you care about being as accurate and consistent as possible? Was that a goal of yours in making the video? Now, if the answer was no, we're good. But if the answer is yes, and everybody always says yes, this is what I'm repeating myself now. If you care about being as accurate and consistent as possible, then in laying out the logic, the philosophical side of all this, I think that the level you claimed is true in the video is high and above what would be the actual low end, which would fall in line with the as accurate and consistent as possible. Necessary truth values must be true, not the could be truths.
Okay. Obviously, the reason why I made the video in the first place was to be as accurate and consistent as possible.
Everyone says it.
Which is the reason why I asked you, where do you think these characters scale realistically? And since you obviously disagree, because now you can no longer take the agnostic position, you are now clearly in opposition to what I am talking about, seeing how you disagree, right? You are on the opposing side of things within the
No,
right?
my first statement was you could be right. A big round of applause to everybody who's made it this far, but this is on that level where you really get mind blown. It's that they're not able to grasp what to you seems very basic, that he still didn't understand that basic idea of what I was getting at. That's what, like, he really desperately might actually think that I was making a positive truth value claim at any given point in this. I've laid it out so clear. It is astounding. For you that for those that are still here, give yourselves a pat on the back. I know that this is this can be certainly infuriating when somebody just doesn't get it, that type of deal. Almost done though. We're gonna trudge through the rest of it. Not much left. But hey, thanks for watching up to this point.
You would have to literally have to prove why the scaling within the video is wrong and how they would actually scale to where you think they scale. You're no longer agnostic. You can no longer say, well, I don't know.
How'd you miss everything so much?
You actually have to give a proper you have to give a proper divine, you have to give a scaling now.
I know you might want that to be the case, but you missed it so much. The thing I just said before you just said your part there, my first statement was, let me help you. You could be right then, but could be, and then I went into my whole spiel. No. My statement was, I'm not saying you are wrong. So, you're just, I don't know if you're not able to keep, really, I know you want to say you understand where I'm coming from, but I don't think you are.
You don't have to verbatim state that, okay, Tempest, you're wrong. It's the way you're putting it where it's clear that you're saying that I'm wrong. That's what I'm saying. So again, if you don't think what I'm saying within the video is true...
I don't think what you put in the video actually correlates to being as accurate and consistent as possible, because we want to find necessary minimum values.
Yeah, so you don't think it's true.
That's not what I'm saying. I don't think that it is the most accurate and consistent.
So you don't think it's true?
What are you talking about? That doesn't mean that it couldn't be true.
Oh my god, if you don't think it's the most accurate and consistent, then you don't think what I'm saying is true in of itself. What are you talking about?
If something is lowball, let me give another example then.
No, I know a high ball, low ball, and mid ball. You're saying that what I am saying was a high ball and is not actually accurately consistent with the source material, this meaning that the manga and anime. Meaning what I am saying is not true in of itself as a high ball. It is a wing. It is not true and or aligning and or coherent with the manga and anime continuity. That would mean that what I am saying is false in of itself. You are implying that what I am saying is false.
This is you being false. This is just wrong.
You have to prove how what you're saying is true.
No.
Giving an antithesis to my thesis.
Pause number whatever we're on right now. Okay, so he's right now actually claiming that to say something isn't as accurate or consistent as another thing, that you're then claiming it's not true. Well, for those out there as lost as him, let me give direct examples so it's easy. Okay, follow me here. Say we have a tree of an unknown size. We don't know the size, but we have a multitude of different scans showing its size. Let's say 8 of the scans suggest it's island-sized in total volume, but then we have 2 other scans that suggest it's maybe not even mountain-sized. If what he's claiming is right, then by claiming the 8 scans would be more accurate and consistent than the 2 scans, we are then saying that the smaller size the 2 scans would suggest is wrong. But of course, that wouldn't be the case. It may be the size of the smaller ones. It may be 1,000 times larger than what the larger ones suggest. But all we can go off of is the scans themselves, and there are objective means by which we can be as accurate and consistent as possible. 8 scans versus 2 being a pretty easy example, right? Okay, I'll do one last example. 2 kids have a math problem via, let's say, 56 times 10. One kid goes the long route in actually writing it out, but oops, they get 500 as their answer. The second kid guesses, but gets 560. Purely luck in the hypothetical. No one is saying kid number 2 is wrong. Well, no, sorry. I'm not saying that. Given that actually working out a math problem is objectively a means of being more accurate and consistent than literally guessing, he, unironically, actually would say that kid number 2 with the correct answer is somehow wrong. That's the logic he's working with. He is claiming that if you say something isn't as accurate or consistent as another thing, such as working out a math problem versus guessing, that then you're claiming the other thing is not true. So the kid guessing 560 can't be true, is his actual logic here. I hope this makes sense, because it's pretty easy stuff. The statement I would say about your scaling is that it is not producing necessary truth values. Not the key word there being necessary. It is still in the could be. It could be true. But if it's not a necessary truth value, a minimum, it is at least this much. So if I'm going to say I would have Naruto, let's say at continental AP, joules per centimeters cubed, okay? I could show feats that necessitate that to be true. It cannot be lower. If you show Naruto destroying a building, I'll use an easier example. Naruto is mountain level. No, there's no way he's mountain level. I think he's building level. And I can verbatim show a mountain being destroyed. Then the minimum, you could say he's higher, maybe he's way higher than a mountain, maybe he's whatever level. But the minimum that he has to be at would at least be mountain in that hypothetical. Your scaling is not necessarily true. It is only could be true. And if you're going to be as accurate and consistent as possible, you're going to want necessary truth values, which is then I could argue from there. I would agree that you don't have necessary truth values, but that doesn't mean that you are therefore wrong. This should be, please, clear by now.
Again, you are saying verbatim that because you do not agree with the fact that the statements have a higher measurement of truth value to them, then you would put feats over them. Which is the reason why I had asked you the question in the beginning of our debate and our discussion in the first place. Could you provide me any feats or statements to debunk what I said within the video? You replied no, which is when I was going to leave BC then, because you cannot provide me any feats or statements to debunk what I said within the video, then this discussion doesn't matter in the first place.
You don't have feats that prove it either.
Hold
or statements.
Hold on. While guess, right? If I'm only shown to destroy a mountain, then one would properly assume that I am only mountain level unless proven otherwise. But the difference between here and there, which is the reason why what you're saying is a non-sequitur in of itself, is within the video, not only did I provide higher feats and or statements within the said video, right, to provide and to prove what I'm saying within the video, but I provided a distinction. I gave feats and statements to back up the feats that I am saying to make the characters as strong as I needed them to be for the video.
Did you catch that? Look, in a debate, he's all riled up and everything. It's hard to get across everything, so I know, yeah, you could argue, slipped up, whatever the case here, but if you didn't catch it, I'll play it again in a second. But I think this is actually what he, and to be fair, most people in the community do. This right here, let me play it for you.
To make the characters as strong as I needed them to be for the video. To make the characters as strong as I needed them to be for the video. That's the reason why I want to say it's consistent within the narrative. Not only the narrative, but it's consistent within what I am saying and how I am scaling the characters. You just saying that this could be the case, but it's a highball, doesn't debunk or nor rebunk anything that you're saying or I'm saying, which is the reason why I had asked you in the beginning. Can you provide me a beat or statement, right, to debunk what I said within the video? Can you give me a proper contention to what I said? And you have yet to do this. Instead, you sit here multiple times, re-explain the same thing on how there could be a preponderance of evidence on how this could be a mid-ball, low-ball, or high-ball, which is not what I've been asking for the past 20 or 30 minutes that we've set in VC. I've asked you to give me a clear distinction and refutation or contention on what I'm saying, yet you still haven't done that. So again, can you please either give me a beat or statement within the actual source material, that's either the manga or anime or any of the canon light novels and or databooks of the set series that I went over, this thing Bleach and Naruto, to debunk the scaling within Naruto and Bleach for the said video.
Asking that in of itself shows that you don't understand the whole point.
This is just running semantics at this point.
At this point, I think you just don't get it. Now, again, I can go to feats and I can point out why the way you went about it is also on an extremely weak end and very assumptuous. Okay. You miss things, but
can you do that? That's what I've been asking.
No, you didn't even start with feats. It started with just statements, and that's what I try to stay with. You ran it down the goalpost and all the things.
Because I said that in response to something that you said.
You just added feats to your feats. I asked for statements and feats thing, but
I said because obviously I made the video which had to provide feats and statements. I think that's all. I think anyone would believe that. It's a prerequisite to the video. I think you can comprehend that.
I think you're just not getting my position. But anyways.
You said verbatim that you do not believe a statement to be a higher measure of truth value as a feat. I then stated that statements are true unless contradicted.
Which has not been proven.
That truth value. So again, if you cannot give me a feat or statement,
and if you can't prove anything,
hold on, I proved everything within the video. The video already exists. It's your job to debunk what I said within the video now. It's your job.
Oh my god.
Yes, you may be on the negative because you may be on the negative side. On the positive side, I'm saying, okay, well, yeah, Naruto and Ichigo are on this, and you're saying you're not. You're on a negative standpoint, but you're on a negative in a way which you have to prove a negative point. You have to prove a negative standpoint because the video already exists. It's not like in a debate we're already.
Then you're really not getting it.
Character, etc.
All right, look, I'm gonna highlight over the feats, because I got work in the morning. All right, I don't have time for all of this, but let me go over some of the ideas of the feats. Okay, so. An example, let's just see if you really know the difference between APDC and all that. So, Kaguya's ETSB, alright? Now, that comes with the statement and everything. Alright, so you were taking that as it is X level, let's say solar system, I think you said, sun, solar system, whatever level. Alright, one, aside from it just being a statement, you don't have an actual feat, you're judging a non-feat. It is two, it has, could you tell me what type of destruction it's going to do? Since it's a feat that you're going to use. Could you tell me the type of destruction? Could you show the type of destruction? Is it pulverization, atomization?
Why do I need to do this? Why is it important?
Because we need to know what level the AP is, right?
No, we really don't.
We don't need to know AP?
Hold on. If I just put it on, then I would have mountain level AP. Stop treating me like a dumbass. Like, it's getting annoying here, and that's gonna piss me off. So again, I know the difference between AP and DC. Attack points.
Everybody says that, but I don't believe anybody anymore.
But yeah, listen. I don't really care if you believe what people tell you or not, but I'm not those people. The same way you told me not to address as if the people in the rest of the video, aka my comment section, do not address me or generalize me as the other people that you talk to. I'm not them.
You started that way. You're actually just showing what I've seen multiple times.
So again, if I just show you a mountain, then one would assume that I have mountain level DC and or mountain level AP.
Whoa. Did you say and or? Because they're not the same.
Because I do not have any attack potency showing that to put my attack potency above my DC or lower than my DC. Vice versa, it doesn't matter. So again, I don't need to know the difference between polarization, etc.
What?
I'm asking for a clear feat. That will debunk what I said within the video. Can you provide me with
the ETSB, the way you went about it, is such that you're saying that it is this level without actually showing any proof that it is. And now you're saying you don't even need to find the way, in which case, if you're going to do a calc, let's say, and you're going to try and find the AP, then you actually need to find the volume of destruction. You need to know the type of destruction. That at least gets you the total joules. And you need the volume of the attack to just get the actual joules per centimeters cubed.
Okay, so it's obvious.
And you're going to say it is solar system level.
Hold on. So it's obvious that you think that because I didn't use calc that my video was wrong. You think that because I didn't use the metric. Hold on. You think that because I didn't use the metric that you're using that my video was wrong because we simply used two different metrics.
Then you're you really aren't getting what I'm saying.
Hold on. Last time I checked, my nigga, I don't have to prove something in one specific order. There's other ways to prove something. Like you just said, you're using calcs as an example. So I'm going to then assume that because you also use calcs,
you're assuming a lot.
You think that what I'm saying is wrong. That's literally just it. You use calcs as an example. I'm going to then assume that you use calcs in most of the things that you do. And because I did not use calcs, now what I'm saying is false.
I can't explain it to you any clearer.
There's nothing to explain. You use calcs as an example. I'm assuming you use calcs, and because I do not, you're then constituting that what I am saying is false. So again, I don't really have to. You're
literally just wrong. What you just claimed that I think is just wrong.
You said verbatim. You said verbatim. Well, you have to calculate the joule. You have to calculate the polarization, etc.
If you want to find the AP, yes. If you want to actually find the AP.
So again, what I just said prior was true. Because you used calcs and I did not, you therefore think that my metric for scaling is false. So again, stop saying that what I'm saying is false.
Again, you don't. Nobody's saying that you are false.
All the time. It's repetitive. It's really repetitive.
The irony here with you and repetitive.
It's repetitive.
I know. Yeah, you are. Okay. This isn't going anywheres. I don't think you get my position. I don't think you're able to wrestle with it. I think the philosophical side is getting a little too far. So, I don't think there's much here to discuss. I couldn't even get through feats or anything. I'm not sold that you do know the difference with AP then, though. You didn't wrestle with it at all. But, it sounds like you're going to keep going this circular route anytime I say anything. So I think this will be it. I do have work in the morning. I got a kid. I got family. So I'll probably peace because I'm not seeing enough to have an actual discussion here.
Yeah, that's fine.
Ciao, man.
All right.
Well, wow. You actually made it to the end. I wasn't expecting that. Hello there. That was quite the ride. Now, you're a real sadist if you watch the original version and then now this version that really delved into the lack of logic and understanding. But now, I just want to say, for those who are listening still, the purpose of this video was to highlight that very inability to grasp basic, a basic understanding of logic. No matter how much it was explained in the simplest of terms. This is something that can come up every now and then. This isn't like a difference of, like he wanted it to be at the end, like how we scale a singular thing, like, ooh, I use pixel scaling and they don't. Or, hey, you're calcing and I'm not. This is on a fundamental, he actually just doesn't understand truth values. Like, he's, I was honestly too nice during the debate, so I'll say it here, but the room temperature IQ, he just truly, truly does not even begin to grasp the beginning, base logics. So that's what I wanted to highlight, though, because it is important to be able to pick out when this happens and what it looks like when it's faced with somebody that's trying desperately to make it very clear and easy. It can't always be done. If the gap is too large in general understanding of things, say like a middle schooler trying to have a science talk with an astrophysicist, what can the astrophysicist truly say? In this example, comparatively to him, yes, I'm the astrophysicist. Not that I'm saying to everybody out there that I'm an astrophysicist, of course, but to this guy, right on the spot. What can you say? The gap is too large. I don't have the skill, I guess, maybe, to dumb it down enough. But for any of those who can see the breakdown and the logic and where it went wrong, and if there's even anything you could get out of it, then this video is for you, and I hope it helps. I will lastly say and leave on this is that, sadly, I think, again, one last time, this guy is pretty average in his ability to wrestle with these ideas. What you're going to find out there in a lot of other channels, just about nearly all of them, okay, if I'm being honest, just will not have this understanding of truth values and accuracy. It's going to be very much feelings based. It is what it is, but I'll be moving on back to my own scaling, so I'll see you there. Hope you enjoyed the video. Like, comment, subscribe, it all helps. Ciao.